Hart. And in studio with us now to talk about the big Orca concert, the Kiss the Sky Orca Freedom Concert. Two big Seattle notables, Michael Harris, an orca whale activist and advocate for many years, and also a really interesting TV guy. Norman B., who was at the peak of Seattle's grunge music scene, the leading afternoon radio jock on The End, a station Jody ended up working at.
Yeah.
A guy I didn't really get to know because we were bitter enemies because we were over at KISW during that time, and the stations weren't yet in the same building. The guy I've heard lots of great things about, Norman B., is going to be the MC at the Kiss the Sky Orca Freedom Concert. Hart will be joined on stage by special guest Graham Nash. Joan Jett, with her Blackhearts, will do a concert set, and many, many more. Too many to name. I'm sure these guys will name a few. But the reason I invited you guys in here this morning really is because talking to Michael Harris, two things. Talking to Michael Harris, I was so fascinated by how well he tells the story of the orca whale, which is a beautiful, beloved creature that lives here in the Pacific Northwest. And we probably think there's plenty of them. There's not that many. There's like 80. And then Norman B., great radio guy that even though we worked, and by the way, you predate me. You were here in the early 80s, weren't you?
I was. I started off, I don't know if you remember this, Crab. Do you remember the public radio station Crab?
Boy, my crab days, thankfully, are long over. I got sober in 1989,
right?
So I never worked at that station.
It was so weird.
Those were different times.
Yeah.
It was so weird. How did that come about? How did
It was
you call
KRAB?
KRAB.
What kind of music did KRAB?
It was just one of those alternatives.
Welcome, Norman B.
Yeah,
by the way.
thank you,
It's
man.
nice to meet
so
you.
nice to meet
Yeah.
you. I'm so pleased to be here. Really, you summed it up so well. We really never met. What I should say now is that I used to listen to you secretly. I used to be a big fan of yours.
Oh, thank you.
I'm absolutely, I'm being totally sincere. And I remember saying one time to the station manager, we were having drinks one night when I was at
The End. Yeah.
And I
At
said,
Bitter Enemies.
And I said, I was listening to Bob. Ooh, and she said to me, you were listening to who? And I said, Bob. And she was like, outraged.
Well, that's the way radio used to be. And then all the stations got consolidated, and all our enemies are right. We passed them on the way to the lunch.
We do. We fake greetings. Hi. How are you? Good luck today.
But we've also
Have a good
come to
show.
realize,
Break a leg.
they knew this in TV for a long time, where CBS owned like 5 stations, and they
Right.
were competitors, but friendly competitors. And people in Seattle are pretty friendly anyway. I mean, like we would have got along well. So I am curious. The End, just briefly.
Yes.
The End came along in the early '90s, right along with the explosion of grunge. They call grunge and I never liked that phrase. And alternative music.
Right.
And the essentially the taking over of the music world by Seattle.
Can I tell you a story which I never told?
Please do, Norm.
I've never told on air before. The guys that had the record still do have the record label Sub Pop that Soundgarden was on, and
Nirvana before they
Nirvana,
switched to Geffen, right?
Exactly, Mudhoney. They came to me one day and they said to me, John Peel. John Peel was this big superstar DJ in the UK on BBC Radio, and he had this nightly show where he played alternative music. And I knew John from way back in the day, and they asked me if I'd send some records over to John, and I did. John called me up and said, "You got any more of this stuff? Because I love it." And I sent over this box of Soundgarden, Mudhoney, I can't remember.
You
Nirvana.
had all the good stuff.
Yeah, right.
You
This
were
is
keeping
before,
it a
this
secret.
is before
Yeah,
Geffen
yeah.
and everything. He had this program where he played all this music every night. And one of the music...
How evolved were these tracks, by the way? They obviously weren't the finished masters of what became the hit.
Actually, these were some of the singles, some of the albums, or some of the singles that Sub Pop put out. This is in, like, I'm saying 89, 90.
Is this the stuff that became Louder Than Love, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. And so he played this stuff every night. And one of the music journalists over in the UK, because the music papers over
Right,
there
and you're
are really
British,
big.
by the way. We
I'm
should point
British.
that out in case nobody knows.
You sound weird. Let's point that
I
out.
was getting
By the way-
Graham or Yelm. Is it Britain?
People used to say you were faking your British
I
accent.
know. That was really weird.
He's
I
not
was like,
really
it's
British.
not-
No, his Spike is not
No,
British.
I've heard British people, and he's not one of us. Say this for me, Chimney. Go ahead and say that.
Chimney.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he sounds authentic. You
I
sound
think
like
you've
a,
got
making
it.
fun of a movie.
I
All right,
am.
So
go ahead.
So a music journalist heard John Peel, the British DJ, playing this music, and they sent him over to Seattle to find out about this music.
What is it?
And what is it? I wanted to know what this music was, and it was Soundgarden, it was Mudhoney, it was Nirvana. From there, because it got into the music papers over in the UK, the record companies over here were like, we got to find something new. All the A&R people started descending upon Seattle. That's the story. That's how it all happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the British explosion
Yeah.
occurred over here.
Yeah.
And our explosion, you could say, occurred over there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
All right. Did you know? Could you say you were prescient about all you knew that Seattle would be as big as it was, or were you you taken aback by
I
it?
was completely taken aback.
Okay.
One of the reasons, I think, Bob, was that there really wasn't a scene that was actually happening as much as it sort of was pretended to be happening. I mean, there were bands, of course, the bands were playing, but I think it was, I'm not going to say it was manufactured.
No,
but
Charles Cross writes about this very well. It got blown out of proportion.
It got blown out of proportion.
To the point where we even created a fake grunge language. Did you read about that in his
yes,
book?
yes, yes.
And there were, I got to talk about that with him sometime. They were like, someone called to interview somebody about, like, what's the grunge scene really like? And I forget who it was, but they made up a fake language of phrases that people in Seattle would use that was totally BS. It was total, like, a total punk in them. And it got printed in the New York Times as fact. So, so the scene was really what it always was, is it rains here all the time and people go to clubs and play.
And then it just so happened that the End came along at that time, and the End was owned at the time by a company out of San Diego before the corporation started taking over. So it was a small corporation.
Say that with reverence. Corporation. The beloved corporations when you're in here. Okay.
Yeah.
The ones who are paying for
the
the
ones
time.
that are paying for this. Yeah, right.
Saved us all.
Saved us all.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the grunge thing, as we now call it, came along. This music was happening, and it happened on a station that just happened to happen at that time. Which
and
was,
by the way, the jealousy and the rivalry between you and KISW was this. Here we were thinking we were breaking the music.
Right.
But along comes a station that's more alternative, and we're still playing lots of classic rock.
Right.
But along comes a station, and we're also playing Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden.
Yeah.
We're doing it all. When we were like, we got this all to ourselves. And then the End comes along, and within a year or two, the End was number 1, 12 plus.
That's exactly right.
Something that has never been equal.
Never been. My bonuses.
I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine me sitting there going, "Screw this! They're number 1. That's terrible." And you were across the street.
That's right. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Bob.
It's taken me 20 years.
Good job. I'm so happy for you and your success.
And look at you today. What are you doing today?
I'm. I sort of retired. I had a son. Got married. Got divorced. Got a son. It's just one of those stories.
And where do you live?
I live in Tampa, Florida.
Wow.
But I'd love, quite frankly, I being back in Seattle.
Don't pretend you love Seattle just
do.
because you're here for this
I
benefit.
actually do. I do. I love it. It's just it's kind of gives me chills just being back here.
It
really
does. Well, because your history and nostalgia and all of that. You
it's
don't
really
like the
lovely.
weather here.
You
Yeah,
got to
but-
get. You got to get away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you haven't smelled the water in Tampa.
I mean, yeah.
You can smell,
You can smell
the
it.
tap water.
That's true.
Am I right?
Every
Spike, you're
place
absolutely
has
right.
its beauty and its disadvantage. So London, London was very similar to Seattle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny because when I came here originally I'm older than God for crying out loud.
How old are you?
I can't even say. That.
It's like, wow, you're not even a woman
Say it in
anymore.
Roman numerals. Right.
Just write it down.
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
You're older than I would think you are, because you look about the same age as me.
Oh, I
But
don't
you're
know
not.
how old
I'm
are you?
58.
Oh, I'm much older than you.
Well, congratulations. You look great.
LXVII. We say it
Getting
in
out of
Roman
radio
numerals.
must be good for you.
Yeah. But I got back into it. I'm doing a show which hopefully is going to go into syndication very soon.
Ah,
Yeah.
what's it about?
It's about arts, media, and culture, and it's I'll send you a link.
I would love to
it.
hear more.
Yeah.
Okay. Norman B., ladies and gentlemen, do you want to ask him anything? Because you're an End alumnus. These guys are so interesting. We're going to do the second set with
We gotta
Michael
talk
Harris
about the
the
orca.
whales. We're
Yeah.
going to talk about the orca whales.
Yeah.
But anybody out there, if you have a text question for Norman B., 52309, text in any question you'd like to ask. He really was British.
Right. So stop asking that one.
I didn't know. By the way, there have been various DJs in Seattle who had mysteries attached to them.
Right.
There was the T-Man.
Yes.
Remember,
I
he
do
wouldn't
remember the
allow
T-Man.
himself, Rob Tepper, I didn't even know his name.
Yeah.
He wouldn't allow himself to be photographed.
Right.
And then there was you, the fake British guy. And I used to think I should have some kind of gimmick like that.
Your mystery surrounding you.
Yeah, but I don't know. So, Norman, what do you like for music these days?
God, you know, my taste has been all over the place. I've always liked stuff that's coming out, the new, whatever's new. I kind of like gravitate towards. I really do. But you know, I love Elvis. You know, I love the Stones.
You have a full 360 spectrum of
I really
appreciation.
do. I really do. Yeah.
This concert on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I understand it's an interesting eclectic group of musicians.
It's a wonderful group. It
Yeah,
really
but
is.
it's not like all one format of musicians.
No.
You have a young star coming up
Yeah.
out of Los Angeles,
Right.
Ariel.
Yeah.
And she's Brian May's protege. He taught her
Apparently
guitar.
so. Yeah. Yeah.
But she's, from what I understand, a virtuoso, brilliant guitarist.
I've only seen her on video, and she's fabulous.
And she's reminds you a little of Brian May with the tone she gets.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
And then you have people like Ian McLagan
Yes.
who are coming.
I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I mean, that's
Is this just because they're all hearing the call of the whale and they're just...
They want to sample that sound.
They're
use it and make a
returning
record.
home,
It's sort of like that Star Trek episode where they came from the future.
traveling thousands of miles underwater.
No, it's because they all share the cause.
I believe so, and what a great cause it is. Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't know the details. We're going to get to that with Michael Harris.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they think, well, all right, save the whales. I've heard that for decades
Yeah.
and decades.
Yeah.
Why do I care
Yeah.
in the Pacific Northwest? We're going to get to that. When we come back, Michael Harris, folks. I'll tell you a little bit about Michael. He had me captivated on the phone. There's a movie called Blackfish, which I'm going to watch this weekend on Netflix. And I recommend that any of you, if you're not completely enraptured by what Michael says and you want to know more, watch this movie Blackfish this weekend. Now, I will ask you some questions. Some people say it's very propagandized, kind of like global warming. Yeah.
And other things that aren't real.
These are the kind of people that say pollution is good. We should make more of it.
Yeah, helps your immunity. Freedom. It's like licking rocks.
So we'll ask you about that, Michael. But thank you very much for being here, Norman B. Ladies and gentlemen, nice to meet you,
Yay.
Norman B.
Thank you.
Finally.
Thank you.